Well, we're back in the shop again, working on some more projects. This time it's something different, not like the furniture that I was doing with the chair, or the rocking chair, but just trying to use up some of the scrap that I have. The making of that chair actually created quite a lot of scrap from the walnut, pieces like this, but stuff that you don't want to throw away. So I was just looking through some of my literature, trying to find something that would be not only a useful gift or a nice gift to give to people, but would actually use up a fair amount of it. And I came across an article in a fine woodworking magazine that was June 1991, number 88, and it was an article written about making salad servers, which I thought would be kind of a cool thing to do with this material, and also make Christmas presents. If you can't find that particular magazine, or if you don't have it, I know you can go online to Fine Woodworking at their website, and they have a project section, and you can look up the dimensions, because you have to make some jigs, and you're going to be doing some laminating with the pieces of wood that you prepare. And it's probably easier to see that than for me to try and to describe it to you. Necessary to say that you need a couple pieces of walnut that I've prepared that are about 3/32 thick. Two of them together will give you a lamination that will actually hold. What you'll end up with will be something like this. Now, these have been pressed, have been cut, but haven't been finally sanded. But you get the idea of what we're going to have when we finish. We're having something that's a salad server. So the process is very simple. You have to make a form such as this one that I've made just out of waste blocks, and it was basically just an S pattern cut. You can see how it goes together like that. And that gives you the shape like this, which you then get two of the salad servers out of it. You flip back end to end. Of course, you'll need a bandsaw to cut them apart, or a jigsaw, and some sanding equipment. I just use a very simple setup with a belt. It's not very complicated, but we'll go ahead and we'll glue up this one. You just have to take the old one out that we did yesterday. The glue that you're going to use for this is a waterproof glue, just for the sake of cleaning up and washing. When you use these utensils, you don't actually want them to delaminate, especially if you gave them away as a gift. People won't be too impressed with that. But it's a very simple process of just gluing. So I have some waterproof glue in here that I've just set aside. Gluing up one face of the, I'll call it veneer. It's not really veneer, but it's thin enough that it gives you the impression of being a veneer. It's important to get lots of glue on. You certainly don't want to starve the joint, because it won't tend to hold together very well. Now, the glue that I'm using is just something that I just got out of the local hardware store. It's just an outdoor project glue, so it's easy to find, not a big deal. Okay, put those two pieces together, put it in the mold or the form, and clamp it up. Whoops. Well, it's always good to start by preparing your clamps and making sure that they're unscrewed so you actually can use them. They're all screwed up, and you run out of thread before you even get started, which is exactly what happened on this one. Nowhere to go. There we go. So I have some witness mark on here just that keeps my form centered. Okay. And we'll put one more down this end. And Bob's your uncle. So, there you go. Basically that's the lamination that you've just created with the two pieces of wood. And when it dries, it comes out like this. As you can see, this one here is the one that I did last night. Now there's some spring back in the sense that it's not exactly the same as your form. And that's basically because you're just using a 2-ply, and if it was a critical piece like a furniture leg or something, you'd have to calculate this spring back in, but since it's just serving spoons, it's really a non-critical issue. So from there, you have a little template that I made basically from the article itself, and it's just a matter of taking the piece that came out of the clamp and just drawing out the two pieces on here back to back, and then bandsawing it up. And as I say, this is what we ended up with. But they're not finished yet. They need more sanding. And then I started thinking about, well, what happens if you'd like to do this but you don't have any scrap because you just don't make stuff, or you make very little. So I was in Lee Valley last week and I discovered that they had this thin plywood. It's about a 32nd of an inch thick. And it was enough that I could actually make them, but it took about 4 laminations, 4 or 5 I think I have here, to be able to get the thickness. But basically you need very little equipment. Table saw would help, but I mean you could still cut these apart with a jigsaw or something like that. But you certainly don't need a bandsaw or a planer or a thicknessing sander. And this is what I ended up with. Again, some salad service, but in Baltic birch. You can see the laminates. It's actually kind of pretty. You end up sanding through it, and you see the different laminations that were in the process. So it's quite an interesting little project. Something that you can do, easy, teaches you how to laminate, and nice little gifts to give away. Another thing that you can do with waste, which I got interested in, and the reason I got interested in this, I hope you can see this because this is a really beautiful piece of walnut. It's 2 pieces that were cut out of the same piece, and then I just did a book match to them. I glued them together, and I had this really interesting character in the knots here and the cracks. It almost looked like well, it looks a bit like a heart, but you could say it looks like a face. And I thought, well, you know, again, this is just offcut. You could call it waste, and maybe somebody would find the fireplace eventually. I hope not, but I thought, well, you know, if you glue these together and then come up with something, and it was just this idea of this is Wenge, this darker wood, this one is walnut, just this interesting shape here on the bottom and the top, and voila, put a little hanger on the back and you've just made yourself a little piece of artwork, which is a really great way of using up waste product.